The Soft Revolution, Why Your Healing Doesn't Need Permission. I want to talk to you today about something nobody prepared us for, something that doesn't come with a manual, a timeline, or a congratulations card. I want to talk about healing, real healing, the kind that doesn't fit neatly into a social media post or a before and after photo, the kind that makes you wonder if you're doing it wrong because some days you feel like you're moving backward instead of forward. Recently, I had the profound honor of sitting down with Jovonda Holmes, a woman whose life is a living testament to resilience, courage, and the audacity to keep choosing herself, even when the world handed her every reason to give up. Jovonda has spent years navigating the terrain of trauma, betrayal, abandonment, and spiritual conflict, and she's emerged not unscathed, but unbroken. She's building spaces for others to heal, creating pathways where there were none, and reminding us all that our past does not get to write the final chapter of our story. She's changing the world one honest conversation at a time. And today, I want to share some of what she taught me. Javonda said something that landed in my chest and hasn't left. She said, healing is not a quick fix, it's a gradual journey. And honestly, if that doesn't make you exhale a little, I don't know what will. Because here's the thing, we live in a world that's obsessed with speed, instant results, instant gratification, instant transformation. We scroll through our feeds and see people posting their breakthroughs, their glow ups, their triumphant moments. And we think, okay, so when is mine coming? When do I get to stand on the other side of my pain and declare victory? But healing doesn't work that way. It doesn't follow a schedule. It doesn't care about your productivity goals or your 5 year plan. Healing is messy, it's repetitive. It's boring on some days and excruciating on others. It's waking up and thinking you've made progress only to be triggered by a song, a scent, a random comment, and suddenly you're right back where you started, wondering if any of the work you've done even matters. And the answer is yes, it does. Every single step matters, even the ones that feel like setbacks. Let me tell you about Rachel Cargill. You might know her name. She's a public academic, a philanthropist, and the founder of the Loveland Foundation. Rachel started this organization after throwing herself a birthday fundraiser. And what happened next was both beautiful and devastating. She raised money to send Black women and girls to therapy, and the response was overwhelming. Not because people wanted to celebrate her birthday, but because the need was so staggering, so urgent that it couldn't be ignored. Black women have been carrying the weight of generational trauma, systemic abuse, neglect, and a healthcare system that often doesn't see them, doesn't hear them, doesn't believe them. And Rachel said, enough. Let me create a space where Black women can access therapy without the financial burden, without the cultural disconnect, without having to explain why they're hurting in the first place. Since its founding, the Loveland Foundation has distributed over $1 million in therapy grants. $1 million. Thousands of Black women have been able to sit in a therapist's office or on a video call and say out loud the things they've been carrying in silence for years, things they didn't even know they were allowed to name. But here's what I need you to understand: those women didn't walk into therapy and walk out healed. Therapy isn't a magic wand, it's not a one time fix, it's a mirror. And sometimes looking into that mirror is the hardest part because you have to see yourself, really see yourself, not the version you've been performing for your family, your job, your community, but the version that's been hiding, the version that's been hurting, the version that's been waiting for permission to rest. That's the work Jovonda was talking about, the work that doesn't make it to the highlight reel, the work that happens in the quiet, in the repetition, in the moments when you don't feel like showing up, but you do it anyway. And let's be honest, some of us have been taught that showing up for ourselves is selfish, that asking for help is a sign of weakness. that if we just pray harder, work harder, smile harder, everything will be fine. But it won't, because healing requires more than hope. It requires honesty, it requires help, and it requires us to stop pretending we're fine when we're not. Jovonda reminded me of something I think we all need tattooed on our hearts. She said, "Your past does not define your future. Even if you've been through hell, even if the wounds run deep, even if you've been abandoned, betrayed, abused, or left to figure it out on your own, you are not stuck there. You are not sentenced to repeat those cycles forever." Let me introduce you to Tarana Burke. Tarana is the founder of the Me Too movement, and before it became a global hashtag, before it was plastered on every timeline and trending topic, it was a whisper, a confession, a truth that Tarana herself had lived. She's a survivor of sexual violence. And for years, she worked with young girls in under resourced communities who were also survivors. And what she realized was heartbreaking. There was no space for them, no place where they could say, "This happened to me," and be believed, be held, be seen. So she created one. She started Me Too as a grassroots movement to let survivors know they weren't alone. And when the hashtag went viral in 2017, millions of people, mostly women, mostly Black women, came forward with their stories, stories of abuse, betrayal, trauma that had been buried for decades because they didn't think anyone would care. But here's what Tarana will tell you and what Jovonda echoed in our conversation. The hashtag was just the beginning. The real work, the healing work, happens after the post, after the likes, after the world moves on to the next trending topic. That's when you're left with yourself. And that's when the journey really starts. Because healing from abuse, from betrayal, from abandonment, it's not linear. Some days you feel strong, some days you feel shattered, some days you're both at the same time. And that's okay. That's normal. That's human. Jovonda reminded me that seeking support and practicing self forgiveness are essential steps. And I want to sit with that for a second. Self forgiveness. How many of us are walking around carrying guilt for things that were done to us, blaming ourselves for not leaving sooner, not speaking up louder, not knowing better, not being better? We've internalized the shame that belongs to someone else, and we're wearing it like a second skin. But here's the truth: you don't have to forgive yourself for surviving. You don't have to apologize for the ways you coped, the ways you protected yourself, the ways you made it through. What you do need to do is give yourself permission to heal, to rest, to say, "I'm not okay," and that's okay. Let me tell you about Brandon Johnson in Therapy for Black Men. Brandon founded an online directory and resource hub that connects Black men with culturally sensitive therapists and mental health resources. He started this platform because he saw what so many of us see. Black men are hurting. They're dealing with abandonment, with the pressure to be strong, to provide, to never show emotion. They're dealing with spiritual conflict, with trauma that's been passed down through generations, and they're doing it alone. But Therapy for Black Men is changing that narrative. It's creating a space where Black men can say, "I need help," without feeling like they're failing, where they can access therapy, mentorship, and education tailored to their unique experiences. And thousands of Black men have taken that step. They've reached out, they've started the work, and they're breaking cycles that have been in place for decades. That's what Jovonda wants for all of us: to break the cycles, to stop passing down the pain, to choose healing, not just for ourselves, but for the people who come after us. Now, I know some of you are sitting there thinking, "Okay, this all sounds great, but where do I even start? I'm tired. I'm overwhelmed. I don't have the time, the money, the energy to do this work." And I hear you. I really do. But here's what I want you to know: healing doesn't have to be big, it doesn't have to be expensive, it doesn't have to look like anyone else's journey. Maybe for you, healing starts with one phone call, one therapy session, one journal entry, one boundary, one moment where you say no to something that's draining you and yes to something that fills you. Maybe it's reaching out to a friend and saying, I'm not okay. Maybe it's finding a community online or in person where you can be honest about what you're going through. Maybe it's giving yourself permission to rest without feeling guilty about it. Jovonda said something in our conversation that I can't stop thinking about. She said, every step forward is a victory. And I want you to hear that. Every step forward is a victory, not just the big moments, not just the breakthroughs, but the small, quiet, everyday acts of choosing yourself, of showing up, of trying again. Because here's the thing: you are not defined by what happened to you, you are defined by what you do next. And what you do next doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be honest. I know some of you are carrying wounds that feel too heavy to lift. I know some of you have been let down by the very people who were supposed to protect you. I know some of you are tired of trying, but I also know this: you're still here. You're still listening. You're still showing up. And that matters. That counts. That's enough. Jovonda Holmes is living proof that healing is possible, that you can survive the unthinkable and still build a life of purpose, joy, and wholeness, that your past does not have to be your prison. And the same is true for you. So here's what I'm asking you to do: not tomorrow, not next week, today, right now. I want you to take one intentional step toward your own healing, just one. Maybe it's setting a boundary with someone who's been draining your energy. Maybe it's scheduling that therapy appointment you've been putting off. Maybe it's writing down how you're really feeling, not how you think you should feel. Whatever it is, do it. Not for anyone else, for you. Because you deserve to heal. You deserve to be whole. You deserve to live a life that's not defined by your pain, but by your purpose. And I need you to stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting for someone else to save you. Choose yourself. Choose healing. Choose softness, not because you're weak, but because you're finally strong enough to be gentle with yourself. This is your moment. This is your sacred pause. This is your permission slip to rest, to heal, to be human. And listen, you don't have to do it alone. Reach out, ask for help, find your people, build your village, because healing is a journey, not a destination. And every step you take, no matter how small, is bringing you closer to the life you deserve. So take the step, make the call, set the boundary, write the truth, and know that on the other side of that courage, there's a version of you who's been waiting, who's been hoping, who's been believing that one day you'd choose her. Today is that day.